everyone, welcome back. Today we're going to go through how to cut a spaghetti squash. What you're going to need is a sharp knife. It doesn't need to be a massive knife. I actually find a smaller one's a little bit easier to work with, but the most important piece is that it's sharp. So pick whichever knife works best for you. Then the second piece is a spoon to scoop out the seeds. Now let's get started. We're going to take our spaghetti squash and turn it lengthwise on the cutting board. A lot of people slice their squash down the middle lengthwise, but we're going to go through the widest point this way. The way that spaghetti squash grows, the strands grow around in a circle like this. So if we can cut here, we are left with longer strands versus if you cut along the length, you're going to cut the strands in half and you're going to have little small strands. So you're going to take your knife in a nice firm grip and you're going to make a lot of really small cuts like so around the outside. And this is where you got to be careful because it is a bit of a tricky process with how hard a spaghetti squash is. Once you have your spaghetti squash in half, you are going to want to cut out the seeds. So the first thing is to start with a knife and cut around the edge of the seeds. Once you've done that, you can take your spoon and scoop out the seeds. You're going to want it to look like this, nice and clean. We're going to repeat the process with the other side. Once you have both sides cleaned out, you're ready to roast the squash. When you're ready to roast the squash, you're going to put it face up on the baking tray. This is important to make sure this piece gets browned. I recommend cooking at 400 for about 40 to 50 minutes, but if you have a preferred way of roasting, you can use that as well. Once your spaghetti squash is out of the oven, it's time to scrape out the noodles. So what you'll need to do this is simply a fork, and you can use just about any size that you want. If your spaghetti squash is too hot, you may need a dish towel or an oven mitt, but I've let this one cool. We talked about earlier that the strands grow around the outside. So that's the movement that you want to make when you're scraping it out. It should, if it's completely cooked, come out relatively easily, and you should just be able to scrape in that circular motion, rotating the squash as the noodles come out. Once you complete this process with one side, you can repeat with the other. As you'll see, we have nice long noodle-like strands that you can now add to your favorite recipe.